Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we watched the last 3 episodes of Season 3 of The Muppet Show. And as a reminder, we watched the episodes in chronological order according to when they aired in New York. So that means those episodes were the ones featuring guests Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, Lynn Redgrave, and Leslie Uggams. The Roy Rogers, Dale Evans one is one episode, by the way. That is, they co-guested because they were married forever.
They were married from the 40s until the 90s.
Yeah, there's fascinating people.
When they died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating people that I did not know anything about really until researching for this episode. And I was like, wow, you lived some lives. On top of those Muppet Show episodes, though, we also watched a short clip from the Muppets' appearance on the special Hello, Here's Berlin.
What a name.
Yeah. The punctuation on that is just a comma. It's not like, hello, here is Berlin.
Very
So,
German. Hello.
Hello, here is
Here's
Berlin.
Berlin.
Welcome.
Yeah.
We are happy to have
Berlin
you.
was going through some stuff back then, so they couldn't really be too excited.
Yeah, which Berlin is this, I guess?
I don't think it was the Soviet side. I couldn't find a lot of information about this, honestly, but I assume...
They're keeping it secret.
Yeah, they don't want us to know.
It's the secret Soviet Muppet Show.
The Muppets were there to negotiate the toppling of the wall.
Yeah.
They did not do a good job, and they put it off by 10 years.
No, Gonzo tried to cannonball into it, and it didn't work. And while we'll mostly be discussing 1979 this week, we also watched a couple of older clips from Ed Sullivan from 1967 and 1968 that were not available the last time we discussed Ed Sullivan things. And it turns out that the Ed Sullivan Show YouTube channel has been periodically releasing some old clips that include Muppets on that YouTube channel in much higher quality than we were previously able to see some of them. So even the ones we talked about before, we've now been able to see in nice, I guess, HD. They're not really HD, but they're calling them HD.
Yeah, they I mean, compared to what they were,
Oh,
they
yeah.
might as well be HD.
Yes.
There is no more VCR tracking lines across them or anything like that.
Yeah, and some of them are in color as opposed to the black and white when we had to watch them.
That too, yeah.
But before we get into discussing all of the things we have to discuss this week, which is a lot of things and a big span of time, I wanted to remind everyone out there that we are going to be doing an episode coming up where we're going to be answering some audience questions. So if you have any questions about the podcast, about me and Sam, about Muppet things that you'd like our opinion on, you can either tweet them at us at CommitmentPod or email us at mail@commitment.com if it's not something that will fit in a tweet. And we'll be answering those questions in an upcoming episode.
Very scared for people to be asking questions about me. What does that even mean?
I don't
have
know.
questions about me.
What if they're like, hey, Sam, what's your favorite color?
Oh, God. I don't know.
Well, you've got a few weeks to think about it.
Okay.
But like I said, we do have a lot to talk about today, so let's just go ahead and get into it, Sam. What did we watch?
First, chronologically, we went back in time and watched a couple skits from the Ed Sullivan Show, both of which we've seen before. First, Music Hath Charms from 1967, in which Kermit needs to play piano music to soothe increasingly large monsters before being eaten by the very piano he's playing. Second, we watched another performance of Java. It's just exactly the same as the others, but still quite good, I would say. These were like delightful for me to watch because there's some sort of crunchy tactile feeling that the Muppets had back then that I feel like even in the Muppet Show era, they don't quite have that anymore. And I don't know why, but I think it's partially that there's a live audience just losing their goddamn minds over these Muppets. And I think another part is just Don Saleen makes really good puppets. And some of the background puppets in the Muppet Show are a little bit more like not as good in my opinion. So there's just something like magical and very like meaningful behind all the puppets he made.
Yeah, and I think we can go ahead and probably get our thoughts about these two things out of the way because there's not a lot to say because, like you said, we have seen both of these performances before. We saw the Music Hath Charms performance on the Hollywood Palace, which was in May of 1966, and we discussed that all the way back in episode 3 of this podcast.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah, that was the time when I foolishly scheduled us to watch and discuss like 40 TV appearances in one episode.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, let's talk about all of the TV appearances of the 60s in one episode. Yeah, I've learned that lesson. And then we also, again, we did see Java 5 times at this point. We have seen Java.
Holy shit.
Including, I think, once on The Muppet Show and on Fanfare and a couple other things, including another time they were also on Ed Sullivan, also doing Java.
Doing Java?
Yeah. And so, yeah, this is the 5th time we have seen Java. Like Sam said, it's just as enjoyable, even though it's exactly the same as it is every other time. And I think we'll see it at least once more before we are done with Java.
I'm sure they break this one out for like Muppets Tonight or like those Muppets at the Bowl or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think they do it at least at the Muppet Show Live, which was, I think, like an early 2000s thing. I think they do it. But yeah, I think we will see Java at least once more for sure. Music Hath Charms, I think we're done with, though.
Mm-hmm. That's not surprising. Kind of a different Kermit than we know of now. Can't have Kermit getting eaten anymore.
Especially, yeah, by a vicious piano with very sharp teeth. Like, that frog is dead.
Yeah.
And I think, like, talking about sort of the, like, difference in just the Muppets, like, I think there is, like, a design difference, but I also think there's something that it just feels like they were throwing them in a suitcase and bringing them from show to show. Like, they feel, like, a little less precious, whereas, like, we've seen some, like, behind-the-scenes things now where they have all these puppets on their own little racks, and they're very, like, well taken care of. And I feel like this is the era where Jim just had one big box that all the puppets got tossed into, and he was like, we gotta go to Ed Sullivan. It
feels as ragtag as the Muppet Show pretends to be. Like,
yeah,
it's
that's a good way to think about
what
it. Yeah,
the Muppet Show, the aesthetic that they're trying for on the Muppet Show. But man, when you hear kids screaming, like, yeah, I love that shit.
I fucking love you, Kermit.
Yeah, and it feels like they feed off of that. Like,
yeah,
I know that there was some live audience stuff in the Muppet Show just from like the crew, but it just is different.
Well, yeah, and I think the energy
these guys are real and they're really there doing this thing in front of people.
Yeah, I think the energy of making strangers and children laugh is going to be a bit different than making your fellow 40-year-old crew members laugh.
Who've seen it like 10 other times before, probably.
Right, and they're just there to be like, is Raquel Welch coming back?
Yeah. Got any more babes lined up? Flash forward, May 17th, 1979, New York City. In stark contrast to your eastern big city surroundings, tonight's Muppet Show features a distinctly Western flavor as it welcomes Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. The whole episode is almost more of a love letter to the king and queen of cowboys than it is like a traditional episode of the Muppet Show. It features entirely Old West themed skits and it has plenty of singing from Roy and Dale. But there is a cute backstage gag wherein Fozzie discovers the only audience that really appreciates his act, cows. He is consistently cracking up Roy's herd of Muppet cows with cow puns for like the entire episode. And another running plot, Statler and Waldorf have guns and they're shooting them all over the place.
It feels like they shouldn't be allowed guns and like they just found these in the back alley or something.
That's what I felt like too. Like they were just sitting up in the box and they were like, whoa, what's this?
Who left these guns here?
Yeah. Highlights include a really neat and complicated opening act featuring prairie dogs popping out of their holes and singing the song Blue Sky, or Blue Skies, I guess, Blue Skies. And Fozzie finally having fans is really cute and nice. I like to see him succeeding, even if it's with cows. Also has very beautiful sets throughout, but otherwise this one, in my opinion, kind of just existed. Wasn't really a lot going on. So Roy Rogers was a cowboy singer who sang a lot of songs you'll probably recognize, like Tumblin' Tumbleweeds and Cool Water. In the mid-1930s, he started his journey to becoming a multimedia superstar, starring in, it's on Wikipedia says B cowboy movies, so I guess they were kind of bad. Cowboy movies, singing more songs and putting out more albums, appearing on TV, appearing in comic books, appearing as toys. I saw somewhere that he was in second place to Walt Disney for having his name on the most stuff, like contemporaneously to Walt Disney.
Jeez.
So he was one of the top money-making stars from 1939 to 1954 on like some official list. His most well-known project, even though it's maybe not so well-known anymore, was The Roy Rogers Show, which ran through the 50s, in which he and his wife, Dale Evans, who he met on a film set in 1944, co-starred as a couple of heroic settlers in the town of Mineral City. By 1979, it seems like he had slipped into the comfortable life of a semi-retired superstar who everybody just like fawned over and had honorary things for. And Dale Evans was a songwriter and a singer who started off as a radio singer and ended up one of the like featured singers on the Edgar Bergen Show. Eventually, she started acting and met Roy Rogers on a movie set, then started with him on the Roy Rogers Show from 51 to 57, and wrote like 200 songs, including the song Happy Trails.
And apparently the Because My Bible Tells Me So song, that's one of those songs again where I'm like, oh yeah, somebody had to write that song at some point. It just feels
That
like a
seems
forever
like it-
existing song.
Like it existed since time began.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that part, but yeah, they were involved in a lot of charities and stuff like that, from like the 80s to the 90s, and a lot of religious stuff too. And there was a lot of other crazy stuff that happened in their lives that I didn't really get into, but
Yeah, I mean,
fun weird Wikipedia articles.
yeah, seeing that Roy Rogers was Dale Evans' fourth husband,
Uh-huh.
and Dale Evans was Roy Rogers' third wife. And times are different as far as like when people were getting married, but it seemed like Dale Evans' first marriage was when she was like 15, and she was only married for a couple of years, got married again, and she was married like 3 times before she was like 26.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and she met Roy Rogers when she was like
How do you
in
even
her
have time
30s
for
or
that?
something like that. And so yeah, then they were married for 50 years.
Another thing I learned about Dale Evans was that she had a son, but the movie studio she worked for made her pretend that he was her brother.
What? Jeez.
Yeah, because she had a son when she was super young, and they thought
Yeah.
that was unseemly, I suppose.
Wild. Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
2 people whose lives are, way more fascinating than I immediately assumed.
Yeah. And now they're just happy old people on the
Well,
Muppet Show.
Oh, I thought you said like now.
No,
happy
now
people. I
they're
was like,
dead, 2 dead
yeah.
people.
Yes.
But next up, May 24th, 1979, actress Lynn Redgrave joins the Muppets for a very special episode. It seems as if, since they have a fancy British lady as a guest, the Muppets decided they should put on a big, fancy Britishy production. So the whole episode is devoted to putting on a play of Robin Hood. Lynn plays Maid Marian, Kermit is Robin. Hood, that's confusing. Kermit is Robin. Fozzie is Little John. Gonzo is the sadistic sheriff of Nottingham. But you may have noticed one omission from that list, Miss Piggy. And Miss Piggy noticed that too. She doesn't have a part in the play. And when she voices her displeasure with this, she's offered the role of Sister Tuck, kind of like a gender-flipped version of Friar Tuck. Miss Piggy gets understandably pissed about this and takes matters into her own hands. She has the pigs, who are playing guards in the show, actually kidnapped Lynn, just like they had kidnapped Maid Marian fictionally. And they take her to Piggy's dressing room. Piggy takes Lynn's place as Maid Marian until Kermit gets pissed and storms the backstage and saves Lynn from Piggy's dressing room. The end. Standouts here include a sort of fun throwback to Tales from Muppetland feeling of the whole thing. Lots of good like fairy tale puns and stuff, like the good old Tales from Tinker D days. And some pretty good jokes throughout, especially in the UK spot when Sam interviews the writer of the play, William Shakespeare. But not that William Shakespeare, just a different guy named William Shakespeare.
A very confusing UK spot.
Yeah. It was very confusing. Did William Shakespeare didn't ever write freaking Robin Hood, right?
Nope.
Okay. Is there even a play of Robin Hood, really? Like
I think
one
there's probably
play?
been. There's like 25 different versions of Robin Hood throughout the
Right.
years. That
Right.
yeah. But as far as I know, William Shakespeare had nothing to do with Robin Hood.
Robin Hood probably like lived after William Shakespeare or something. I don't know. Lynn Redgrave was a British actor who starred in the movie Georgie Girl in 1966, which earned her an Oscar nomination, but at this point is probably much more well known by its theme song. which is called Georgie Girl. You know that song?
Yeah, hey there, Georgie girl.
Yeah.
And then the
So-
rest of it that I don't know.
Yeah, I think George Costanza sings it in Seinfeld once or something.
That
and that's
seems
probably
right.
why everybody our age knows it. She was in a lot of TV and Broadway and movies and all kinds of stuff. She just was like a famous actor. Finally, our old friend Leslie Uggams, one of the most encountered people on this podcast, I would say, for some reason, comes to the Muppet Show on July 5th, 1979, for what would effectively be the season 3 finale, assuming you lived in New York in the 70s. And Leslie brought a friend, Big Bird. And Gonzo is making a pretty huge step in his life. He's going on his first date with Camilla. Unfortunately, it does not start out too well, as the flowers that Gonzo brings her makes her sneeze herself out of the dressing room and across the stage, interrupting Muppet Labs. Side note, I will never think that sneezing a lot because you're allergic to something is as funny as the people on the Muppet Show seem to think it is. I think it's very stupid. Gonzo then tries to make it up to her by serenading her. She's on a balcony. It's a Romeo and Juliet type of thing. But Big Bird wanders in during the song, and Gonzo's attentions are drawn to the giant bird, which pisses off Camilla, and she drops a flower pot on his head. Standouts here. This episode was kind of all over the place, I thought. Some parts are great, like Big Bird and Miss Piggy meeting and seemingly instantly hating each other, which Miss Piggy seemingly instantly hates everybody, I guess, so that's fair. My favorite Muppet Labs ever, featuring inflammable paper that doesn't actually work, inflammable water that works super well, and a pretty dang good bear on patrol. Then the outstanding weird stuff is the unexpected return of Vindaface out of nowhere, and Leslie and Big Bird's closing number together, which felt really hyped up the whole episode and sucked really bad, I thought. And I'm also not sure that the Muppet people know what eggs look like.
Yeah.
Based on the beginning of the
There's an
the
opening
episode.
gag where Leslie Uggams says that Big Bird's little brother is in her dressing room, and she holds up an egg that looks like it has golf ball texture to it.
Yeah, and it's like it's thin on the top. It's like skinnier on the top. It does not like consistently round.
I mean, I guess we don't
it
know
looks
Big
like
Bird's
a gourd or something.
Yeah, we don't really know Big Bird's species, so like who knows? Maybe
Huh.
that's just what like Big Bird
I don't think
eggs
any
look like.
eggs look like that. I don't think. Well, I guess Big Bird's not real, so it could, but still. Leslie Uggams is somebody we've talked about before. In 1979, she had just starred in a miniseries called Backstairs at the White House, which, from my understanding, was pretty much Downton Abbey, but set in the White House. And she was nominated for an Emmy because of that show, so she was doing great. Finally, we watched a segment from a live show called Hello, Here is Berlin, which maybe had something to do with the Berlin Wall or something. I have no idea. It's a German live show. In the segment we watched, the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters are playing some of their classic wacky basketball, and the Muppet Monsters storm the stage and kind of just like run around for a while doing something. Then Mean Mama comes out in a sexy dress, and the Globetrotters seem to think she's hot or something, and they follow her off stage. The end. The Harlem Globetrotters are an exhibition basketball team that, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, are basketball clown magicians. They combine sleight of hand, trick shots, and prop comedy into basketball games in which they completely dominate a rival team, usually a team of dopes called the Washington Generals. This was extremely surprising to me. The team's been around in some form or another since 1926, and they're still going to this day. I think in the 70s, there must have been some kind of huge Globetrotters advertising blitz because they had a Hanna-Barbera cartoon show. They were on Scooby-Doo like 5 times or something like that, and they just kind of seemed to be all over the place.
Yeah, I remember them even in the 90s. Like, I remember commercials for the Harlem Globetrotters are coming to your town.
Yeah, I mean, they still come to Missoula every now and then.
Yeah.
They were here in 2018 or something like that.
I was
They were on
cu-
Futurama. Remember when they were on
Yeah.
Futurama? I love that episode.
I was curious about because, as you noted, that the Harlem Globetrotters often are facing the Washington Generals, who usually lose quite badly. It's kind of like the professional wrestling of basketball. Like, it's definitely pre-planned. They know what's happening, but they sometimes like to make it a little competitive. And it turns out that, in fact, the Globetrotters have lost 345 games.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's over the course of 9 decades. And they have won 27,000 games. So they do actually own the best winning percentage in the history of professional sports.
That's amazing. I do think in the beginning they were a little bit more of a real team. They were still an exhibition team, but I think they were playing like real games. They just were really good at basketball for being people in 1926. So that's probably where a lot of the 300 games come from, I would guess.
Yeah, maybe when they're in Washington, they're like, well, we should let the home team win this one.
Yeah. And then some other random background stuff.
Imagine going to a Harlem Globetrotters game and they lose. You just be like,
a
wait.
hush would fall over the crowd.
Yeah,
It
like,
would be
this
alarming.
isn't supposed to happen.
No. Everyone would start weeping. Some other background stuff. Bunsen Honeydew mentions high gas prices during the Muppet Labs in this set of episodes. That's because of the Iranian Revolution, which happened around now, and gas prices shot up for a second time in the 70s, so there was another energy crisis. I think just around now in general, all of the Middle Eastern conflicts that were backed by Russia and the U.S. That still dominate our lives entirely started happening or started like boiling over into a huge world event. Also, McDonald's released a Happy Meal in June of 1979.
Hey, so it's not all bad.
There was some good. There was some bad. Yeah.
It was the best of
Who's to
times.
say?
It was the worst of times.
Doesn't 79 seem so late for the Happy Meal?
Yeah,
I
that does feel
I-
like it'd be like a mid-60s thing or something.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
this
those
was in
McDonald's
response to,
commercials.
like, you know, the world being in trouble. They're like, we need to make people happy. How do we do that?
Sad world, Happy Meal.
Boom.
That's exactly right.
Well, there was some other Muppety things happening during this long time period here, because we are talking about May through August of 1979.
Yeah, what happened? There was another big gap.
Yeah, well, so there is a gap and there's not really a gap.
Okay.
There's a gap in Muppet Show episodes for some reason, and I don't know if that had to do with, you know, the Muppet movie came out. So I don't know if, like, they started to organize that around that, or if other things were going on. Maybe there was an Olympics or something happened in the world that they were like, I don't know, let's not air it for a while. I don't really know. Didn't look into it. But on May 16th, the day before the Roy Rogers, Dale Evans episode aired, is when The Muppets Go Hollywood aired on TV.
Oh.
Which we discussed in our very first episode, and we will be revisiting in our 1-year anniversary episode, which
Cool.
I believe will be episode 50, currently slated to come out late March. So you'll hear us talking about that again. And speaking of that, on June 22nd, 1979 is when the Muppet movie premiered. So right in the middle of this chunk of stuff, which again, we discussed in our first episode, and we'll be discussing again soon. Some things that happened around this time period that we don't have anything to really say about, or we couldn't watch, but I feel like are worth noting. On May 29th, 1979, Jim and Jane Henson had their anniversary dinner to celebrate 20 years together. And as we've noted at this point, there have been some schisms in their marriage, going back all the way to the early 70s of them not living together or deciding to sort of live separate lives but still being married. And they will eventually actually sort of officially separate in the 80s. But for now, they are still technically together and married and seem happy enough. But I'm not going to judge their, way of life. But
No.
there have been some rough patches that we've discussed and found out about through the years. On May 31st, 1979, it was the royal premiere of the Muppet movie in London with Princess Anne in attendance.
That I read about that too. Is that something that still happens? Do they have like the Queen of England go see movie premieres sometimes?
I don't know, because they do it again for at least the Labyrinth, where Princess Diana gets to meet some characters from the Labyrinth when they do that premiere.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's still a thing, but yeah, I don't know. Some other things that happened again during the summer of 1979 in the lead up to the Muppet movie coming out in the U.S. The week of June 4th, 1979, once again, Oscar and Big Bird appear on Hollywood Squares, and they will appear the following week as well, the week of June 11th. Could not find these Hollywood Squares episodes, so we didn't have to sit through them. On June 10th, the New York Times Magazine does a cover story on Jim Henson and the Muppets. On June 16th, Jim wrote in his journal that they finally they bought that Downshire house in London, the one that recently received the blue plaque to commemorate Jim Henson living there.
That's cool.
Yeah, so this is when they bought that house in the Hampstead Heath area, which is eventually they will buy the building right across the street, which will become the Jim Henson sort of creature shop to work on Dark Crystal. On June 29th, Jim wrote in his journal that they begin recording Christmas album with John Denver, which would become A Christmas Together, which we will both be talking about at some point, and watching the TV special that comes about because of that album. And then the last couple things worth noting here in 1979, or at least in this chunk of 1979, on August 7th, ATV closes down on strike. ATV is the TV production place that they are making the Muppet Show. At least the crew is ATV crew.
Right.
And this strike apparently went on until the end of October. So this was from early August through the end of October. ATV was on strike, so they couldn't make Muppet Show. But Jim decided to take advantage of this downtime and went to Europe and the Caribbean, and also went back to the U.S. a couple times to check on the progress of the Dark Crystal. And then as soon as the strike was over on October 28th, they went right back to work to make the Dizzy Gillespie episode of The Muppet Show.
Is that the first one of season 4?
I don't think so. I think they had started filming season 4 already, and then they had to put a pause on it. So if we end up finding there's a big gap in the dates of season 4, that might be why.
Okay.
And the last thing here is on August 31st, 1979, there was the Blackpool Illuminations thing, which is not a thing I knew about at all. It's apparently a thing in England. It's an annual lights festival founded in 1879, and it's held each autumn in the English seaside resort of Blackpool. And essentially, it's sort of like a Main Street electrical parade mixed with those light up floats they have at Disney World out on the water. But they have a celebrity come every year and flip the switch for the lights.
Okay.
So this year they had Kermit the Frog, Gonzo, Miss Piggy, and Sweetums turn on the big switch.
That's fun. I bet I know which one pulled the switch, probably. I guess Fozzie could have done it too.
Yeah.
But only 2 of those people have functional hands.
That is true. And if you look up Blackpool Illuminations on Muppet Wiki, you will also see some cool photos of the Muppet light displays that they had as a part of this. I can't tell if they're floats or if they're just still things that are just on a side of a road somewhere. But there's a very cool Electric Mayhem one. There's a Fozzie one. There's a Gonzo.
Whoa, these are intricate.
Yeah. So, Blackpool Illuminations might be a thing that is still going and is very well known to people in England, but I had never heard of it before.
British people, let us know. I know there's a couple of you out there.
Yeah, we can see the analytics. We know you're out there listening.
We know your home addresses. We're going to come there.
But going back a little bit earlier in 1979 to May 17th, 1979, we have the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans episode of The Muppet Show. I rated this episode 3 stars, Sam. I said almost 2, but it's got an overall charm that I enjoy, even if I don't love anything individually on its own that much.
I gave it 2 stars, and I put boring underneath those 2 stars. I think that they seemed like they were afraid to be the Muppets in front of these 2. They were just like, we have to be classy in front of Roy and Dale.
Yeah, it felt off a little bit, and I think it's we definitely have a couple of themed episodes to talk about this week, but the theme of this one isn't as committed to as other theme episodes we've seen, like the train station one or especially the Robin Hood episode. But it is just, it seems a bit off, and it seems like there is some reverence for Roy and Dale, but it also seems like maybe, but this is a lot of speculation, but it seems like maybe between takes, Roy Rogers was getting mad about things or something.
Oh, I didn't get that at all.
I don't know. It just seemed like he was not maybe willing to play as much as they would have liked him to maybe lean into things a little bit more. But he seemed like he was doing his straightforward cowboy performance that he does on every other show he's on.
So to you, he had a Chris Christopherson vibe of maybe he wanted to actually kill the Muppets or something? Yeah,
a little bit. I think he takes himself very seriously is the vibe I got. And so stepping
his
outside...
talk spot with Kermit is very... very straight-laced, not really a joke or anything like that. It's basically like a talk show interview or something.
Yeah, and I think that's it feels like maybe there was a lot more rules of how to interact with Roy Rogers than there maybe is with other guests.
Yeah. That makes sense. Dale seems like she's having a hell of a time to me, though.
Yeah.
She loves those ugly little babies.
Well, and if she was working with Edgar Bergen, she might have some more puppet experience than Roy Rogers. That's
true. Radio puppet.
Yeah, she really had to pretend puppets were real.
Yeah.
I am looking at you right now, Charlie McCarthy. But yes, the episode does open up with Kermit declaring it the Muppet Cowboy Show. And he's got a cute little hat and a cute little vest and button-up shirt.
Yeah, but you're right. There's no real reference to the theme beyond that. It's just I guess it's kind of realistic in that backstage everything's pretty normal, except they just have a bunch of cowboy sets.
I mean, they're also cows. hanging out
Yeah,
backstage.
but that's not super weird for the Muppets.
That's
you know?
true. We have seen that in the Julie Andrews episode, so I guess.
Yeah. There could have been a herd of cows in it for any guest, really. And it
Herd of
wouldn't have seemed
cows?
too weird.
Of course, I've heard of cows. And that's like the 5th time we've heard that joke
Yeah.
in a Muppet thing.
Yeah, I think Fozzie recycles a few cows or a few jokes for the cows. There,
Yes, that
they
is
don't
very
mind.
true.
They're cows.
Yeah, I guess the cows haven't heard him before. They weren't watching Jimmy Dean and Rolf on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think again, I said three stars for this episode, and I think there's just an overall charm to this theme, and everyone's got their cute little cowboy outfits that I enjoy.
They do have very cute outfits on. A little sad we didn't get to see a cowboy Miss Piggy.
Yeah, she's not even in this episode.
You bringing up Jimmy Dean is a good point because that show, I think that like sets up your expectations for Muppet Cowboys to be like way up here. But then it's just kind of like middling on this one.
Well, and we've also seen people like Roy Clark and other people come on
Yeah.
to the Muppet Show and do
Really
Southern
country it
themed.
up.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they, I don't know, like I feel like this episode feels like they're almost there. They're like 70% of the way to a fully realized country episode. But there's just some
Yeah.
like pulled punches, I think.
Yeah, it would have been. Well, I don't want to rewrite the Muppet Show for the millionth time, but it would have been kind of fun if they had done like a Roy Rogers show style plot or something where there was like a bad guy or something that he had to stop, or like Uncle Deadly in a black cowboy hat was up to no good of some sort.
That'd be pretty good. Yeah, I like that idea of like this looming threat that somebody's going to show up and ruin the show. And then it turns out to just be, I don't know, like Uncle Deadly or Scooter or somebody like that who was looming around and everyone was afraid of.
And then Roy Rogers blows him away.
Yeah, just steals one of Statler and Waldorf's guns and blows them away.
Yeah.
But the opening sketch is some prairie dogs singing Blue Skies. They look a lot like Joe the Legal Weasel.
I'm sure one of them must be Joe the Legal Weasel.
Yeah,
right?
and Joe the Legal Weasel, for those that don't know, is the best thing to come out of Muppets Now.
He was also in Muppets Haunted Mansion, right?
Yes, he was wearing his old-timey judge wig in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe the Legal Weasel is a very good character, performed by Peter Linz. And yeah, these prairie dogs just look exactly like him. And like prairie dogs themselves will show up multiple times in the Muppets. But yeah, it seems like when they were trying to create Joe the Legal Weasel a few years ago, they were probably just like, how about we just take that prairie dog design or this old prairie dog puppet and refurbish it?
I found this in a filing cabinet.
Yeah.
It's a prairie dog.
Make him a lawyer. Go.
They're so freaking cute, though. I loved this opening act. Just because they're so cute, they make me happy.
They're very cute, and also like the syncing up of the movements of the puppeteers is very impressive.
It's wild how the hell they do that.
Yeah, they're all popping out of their little prairie dog holes like the exact same time on cue with what they're about to sing. I don't see anybody mess up. I was looking to see if anyone like missed their cue, and I didn't notice anything.
Yeah.
They also maybe recorded this 20 times. Who knows? But it looks pretty good.
I suppose they could have cut together the music track or something, and they weren't singing it live too. I guess
Probably not. Yeah.
I don't really know how that works. Do they sing much of anything live?
I mean, occasionally we hear stuff that you can tell was sung live. And then there are also moments where, I don't think we talked about this, but in the 60 Minutes Raquel Welch behind the scenes thing we watched, there's a moment at the end of that where you see Frank Oz performing the WOMAN number with Raquel Welch. And he walks out, and at the very beginning, he's walking out, and Miss Piggy is singing, and Frank is not doing anything. Like, he's puppeteering, but he's not singing. And so you can see that Miss Piggy's, like, some of it is pre-recorded, but then there's other parts where he starts singing. So I think it's maybe like what makes the most sense for this. Is it easier for timing wise if we pre-record it so that we don't have to like mess up the song and mess up the puppetry and then restart? So I think it sort of depends on the style of the singer, the style of what the number is, because I think there's also certain styles of singing, like, you know, yodeling would be pretty hard to like lip sync to.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Roy Rogers stuff is probably not pre-recorded. And I know like various singers will sometimes request not lip syncing because they're not good at it. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of if you can tell, that's the only way to really know, is like the ones where it's really obvious that they're lip syncing, or the ones where it's really obvious of like, oh yeah, you can hear some puppet noises happening and some scurrying around. So they probably recorded this one live.
All right.
I like Fozzie's cute little hat. He's got like, it seems like he's got like a cowboy outfit that he bought like at a costume shop, whereas everyone else feels like they got like legitimate cowboy hats and boots and stuff.
Yeah.
It felt like everyone else got like legitimate cowboy gear. Like Link Hogthrob especially has a very nice big fringed jacket and all this stuff. But yeah, it feels like Fozzie was told last minute he had to dress up like a cowboy. He was like, oh no, I got to go to the costume shop.
He doesn't really own any clothes, so.
That's true. Yeah, anytime he's told he has to wear clothes, he's like, again?
Oh, so constricting.
Yeah. Then we get Roy Rogers singing a song called Skyball Paint, which is about a horse with red eyes. And so we have a Muppet horse with red eyes.
This guy shows up a few more times, I feel like. I feel like I have an impression of a red-eyed horse hanging around with the Muppets.
Yeah, he'll stick around a little bit, and eventually they will fix his eyes and make them less creepy. And apparently that puppet is reused in Muppet Christmas Carol in the opening number.
Oh, sure. Probably pulling a cart. There's a horse pulling a cart.
Well, I think he sings a song, actually. I think he sings a line of the There Goes Mr. Humbug. But
he does both. When you're a Muppet horse, you can do both.
I feel like they're really underusing Lubbock Lou and the Jug Huggers.
Yeah. There's like 2 of them here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 of them here.
We get Zeke and Slim Wilson. But I feel like in the past, whenever we had a country number, the Gogolala Jubilee Jug Band would just show up to sing with Bernadette Peters or whoever. And yeah, it feels like now occasionally they'll do a country number, but they have not stuck to this thing of like, hey, we have a jug band that we should be using.
Maybe they had a falling out behind the scenes. They won't perform with each other anymore.
No hugging amongst the jug huggers, says the New York Times headline.
That's a Fleet Scribbler original.
Yeah. Jugs are hugging no more. Then we find out Roy Rogers has brutally scarred Link Hogthrob.
I took it as being the cowboy whatnots who are hanging out with Roy.
But they seem to work for Roy. It's his brand.
Sure.
It is an RR brand that is branded upon Link Hogthrob's face.
Yeah. So Roy's boys did it to him.
Yeah.
With the tacit approval of Roy. He was probably standing there going like, yes, nodding while
they like look to Roy and he just gives that slight little nod and then they chase down Link and branded his face.
Yeah, so he's got a big brand on his cheek, which did give me like a viscerally negative reaction when I saw it, because it's horrifying.
Yeah, I put it in my notes. You can't just do that.
No,
you can't just brand a Muppet.
Yeah, especially one who loves his looks so much. It kind of ruin his whole life.
I feel like he's got like a big old Mike Tyson face tattoo now that he's just gonna have forever.
And Floyd also looks cool as fuck in this scene.
Yeah,
he's got a cowboy outfit too. And he looks awesome.
Yeah, it's especially interesting because in the next episode we find out that Floyd does not want to play along with the Robin Hood dress up.
Yeah,
but for this one he is totally game. He's like, I'll be a cowboy.
I think if he can look cool, then he's okay with it.
Yeah. That's when we finally get to see Statler and Waldorf with their guns randomly firing at the stage.
They're putting the show out of its misery, which is pretty fun, but...
Well, then they continued more gunplay throughout the episode of just like shooting randomly at each other and just playing with the guns. And it's clearly like two old men who have never used a gun in their lives being handed these guns, being like, how do these work?
Yeah. I don't fear death.
Then we get Dale Evans singing a song with the creepy Muppet babies. Not the Muppet babies, but the babies that are Muppets.
Yeah, Rachel said, I'm so glad that the Muppet Babies show had nothing to do with these Muppet babies as we were watching it.
Yeah, these are Bobby Benson's babies. And they sing Deep in the Heart of Texas with increasing levels of creepy animal noises coming out of the babies' mouths.
Yeah, I didn't quite get what they were going for with all this.
That's usually what happens when the babies show up. I'm usually like, okay, why is this happening?
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think the first time we ever saw them and they were playing their little baby instruments, that was fun. And they should have just had them do that here, too. Yeah,
and again, we only get Slim Wilson from the Jug Huggers for some reason. We don't even get the jug band around. We just get some random people playing some instruments. And
Bobby Benson's back there.
Yeah, I guess he's always got to be looking over to make sure he's going to get paid
Keeping
for
an eye
his
on his
baby
babies.
band. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's fine. I don't love the babies.
No, it's not horrible, but there's just there's some element to it, as with most of this episode, that is not there, where it's like too sweet and they're missing the little Muppet like nastiness.
But the UK spot in this episode, I rather enjoyed.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun, like, kind of improv-y thing that we don't see super often.
Yeah, it reminded me of, one, I always like seeing the Country Trio whenever they show up in their various forms. This one's obviously just the Jim and Jerry Muppets. Frank is, I think he's voicing actually one of the cows in this sketch, but we don't get to see the Frank puppet show up. And it reminds me a little bit of the not very good Sam and Friends sketch that we watched, where they couldn't control their horses.
Where they're lip syncing over the horse record.
Yeah, but it was basically just about two guys trying to walk their horses in one direction, and they couldn't manage their horses.
Yeah,
that one wasn't very good, but this felt like an evolved version of that.
It's there. He's like doing twirls and stuff on his cow.
Yeah. Not to mention they are riding cows, not horses in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I put that this was maybe my favorite thing in the episode, just because I think I like this. The energy Jim Henson gives to some of his like country characters is a very different Jim Henson.
Yeah, and we don't see a lot of Jim Henson characters aside from Link and Kermit at this point, I feel like, but it is fun to see the more enthusiastic characters, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Kermit's fake enthusiastic and Link has to pretend to be cool all the time.
Well, and this voice that he's doing for this version of Country Jim just sounds like Rolf, but like a high energy Rolf that's like more chaotic.
Yeah, I guess we get Rolf and Dr. Teeth too, but they're not as fleshed out, I suppose, as the other two. And you don't see them quite as much, and they're always playing piano.
Yeah, and I feel like we haven't seen much of the Electric Mayhem in a long time at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe they're on tour or something. They're they can't really be bothered to show up and actually perform on the show anymore.
They didn't bring Floyd, though. Floyd's always there, but the rest of them aren't there.
Yeah. Then we get Bear on Patrol, which is like slightly country themed. They didn't really bother to redo.
It looks cool.
Yeah, but they didn't really like redo a lot of the set. It's still very clearly the Bear on Patrol set with a light skinning of country stuff.
Yeah, with like post-it notes of cowboy drawings over the regular wanted posters and stuff. But they got their fun little sheriff and deputy outfits on.
That is true. And we have a villain here, Bullets Barker, who shows up in his black hat.
With his extremely human-like hands. Creepy hand. He's got like just regular leather gloves on. So he's got 5 fingers and you can see like all the knuckles and stuff.
Yeah, I don't
Very
like it.
Very odd for a Muppet, yeah.
And he also kind of has that New Zealand head a little bit that, again, just reminds me of New Zealand, which isn't going to make me happy.
Yeah, I liked this up until the end, which I didn't really get. Why did Link's hand hurt? Did he get shot in the hand or something? I might have missed that. I
am now forgetting exactly why his hand hurt as well.
Is it because he punched Fozzie in the face?
Maybe. He was hiding under the desk at some point, so maybe he hurt his hand while he was down there. Maybe somebody stepped on his hand.
I don't remember. The ending is just kind of a non sequitur where he's more worried about his stamping abilities than anything. Kind of a fart of an ending.
But this is one of the few times we actually see like Fozzie being competent in these Bear on Patrol sketches.
Yeah, I think he's working with idiots as well. So he's got it all stacked against him. He's not particularly any stupider than Link.
No, but I don't trust Link and Fozzie to get anything done. Like they're not a duo that I would assign to a project.
Yeah. A people pleaser and a completely incompetent buffoon.
Mm-hmm. Much like when they had Beauregard and Beaker work together to build a set. I
would trust Beaker. I think Beaker knows the scientific method, you know? He'd be able to, like, put a project together. He could probably write a grant, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, he might also be the one to take over a group project as well. He'd just be like, let me handle this. I got this.
Yeah. He just stops returning Beauregard's, like, texts or whatever if they were in college together.
He's just like, don't worry, I'll handle this whole thing. And Beauregard's like, okay, if you say so.
Yeah. Just show up the day it's due.
Yeah.
I'll lead the slideshow or whatever. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. Here, read this card. We're fine. Then we get the little talk spot where Roy and Kermit are hanging out, and Roy is teaching Kermit how to yodel.
This is where I started to feel like they were just being really, like, deferential to Roy Rogers and maybe to a slightly lesser extent Dale Evans. But there's, like, no joke here, really.
Yeah, it's just kind of a straightforward thing, and Kermit does reference that Roy Rogers has made 189 films, and Kermit says, I've only made one.
Yeah. Nice little shout out to the as of yet unreleased Muppet movie. Is that right?
Yeah.
But they'd already filmed it at this point, right?
Yes. But yeah, this one thing I found interesting in this is that Roy says he invented some yodels. Like, invent is a strong, weird word to use when you're talking about like a style of singing.
Yeah, I guess so. But when you were born in 1911, I feel like there's probably some yodels left to discover in the intervening years.
But like, are you just standing on stage and you start doing something and people are like, whoa, that's new?
I bet it's like Jim Henson has invented new forms of puppetry, probably, or new ways to build puppets. He probably are like yodeling conventions where he goes and he's like, check this shit out. And everybody's like, no, new yodeling.
You
what?
can't do that. You can't yodel that way, man.
Yeah. All these like alpine dudes with their lederhosen on, their little hats with feathers on them, just flipping off their heads.
But yeah, the joke of this one really is just that Roy Rogers much better at yodeling than Kermit is, and eventually he does a yodel so extreme that Kermit cannot copy him, and Kermit decides to just leave instead.
Yeah, and it's a very cute Kermit moment. One thing this episode did, it felt like a Sesame Street episode kind of in a lot of ways to me, especially at the Bear on Patrol. That seemed like something on a Sesame Street there where you'd learn about like in and out or something. It's like, he's in the cell, he's out of the cell, or like he's not, he's under the desk, you know?
That's
like
true, yeah.
Prepositions or something.
Statler and Waldorf's bullet went through the bear. Then old Skyball Paint, the red-eyed horse, is back, just for a very short little gag of Slim Wilson trying to ride him in a race, and then Slim Wilson absolutely eats it as he goes face first into a wooden sign.
Yeah. This is a very weird little moment. Not really something that it's like a few seconds long little sight gag.
Yeah, another sort of Sesame Street-esque kind of thing where they just have a one idea for a joke and they just do that real quick and then move along.
Yeah.
But the puppetry is very good in Slim Wilson, like hitting this like sign, sitting there for a moment, and then flopping dead over the fence.
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of interesting to see like Muppets just doing like a hangout thing in a place that isn't just backstage.
Yeah, and they use that same sort of like rustic fence set like 4 or 5 times throughout this episode. So they're at least sticking to the aesthetic a little bit. But
yeah. What is this on stage? It's just like they just kept that set up the whole time, or I don't understand that part.
Yeah. And then we get the closing number to this episode, which is a medley of songs that Roy and Dale are singing, including Hazy Mountains, El Rancho Grande, Tumbling Tumbleweeds, and Happy Trails. And it features the return of the Mexican lobster banditos.
Yeah.
Who we have not seen in a very, very long time.
I love the set on this one. Because it reminded me so much of first of all, I was like, how are they doing this fire? This seems extremely dangerous. But also it looks like the Muppet movie kind of where they're out camping, which is my favorite scene of that movie.
Yeah. It also like looks like they've been using similar backdrops throughout this whole episode. And it's kind of been, the lighting has been changing. So like with the very opening prairie dog thing, there's like mountains in the background and cactuses in the background, and it's just like middle of the day. And then later on in the Muppet Sports and the horse racing stuff, it's sort of like sunset kind of thing. And then this is nighttime. So there's been some progression of the Western sets throughout the show.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I think I kind of like that they didn't draw a lot of attention to it. But the medley is fine. It's very weirdly organized, and like they just decide to like, and now we're moving to the next song. But there's not like a smooth transition. They just like stop singing one and then start singing the next one, and the crowd just starts cheering.
This episode, I feel like, assumes a lot of familiarity with Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, and just like excitement for what they do that doesn't exist in 2000, whatever year we're in, 22.
Yeah. It's like as soon as they start singing the words to Happy Trails, the crowd freaks out. They're like, "Oh my God, they're doing it!" And then the episode ends in one of its more like untraditional ways that the Muppet Show ends, where Kermit just comes out in front of the set to wrap things up, and we get Roy saying what is apparently his famous good night, which is, "Until we meet again on screen or in person, good night, good luck, and may the good Lord take a liking to you."
That's nice. Very charming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this episode that's extremely charming, but none of it is particularly funny.
Yes, precisely. And that's why I think it earned 3 stars in my heart, is because I just liked some of the cowboy outfits and some of the charm to it. But individually, all these sketches were just kind of like, okay, yeah, those happened.
Yeah. Kermit does look great in little clothes all the time. I don't know what it is about him, but looks good in hats, looks good in little outfits.
It makes it even weirder when we do see like Kermit in the Muppet movie with just his cowboy hat and boots and not a cowboy shirt.
Yeah. He made a choice there. I guess he couldn't find a shirt and pants.
That's true.
perhaps.
They're just like in a little ghost town.
Yeah. Nobody leaving their pants behind.
But yeah, I think the only thing about the end of this episode is I kind of expected the orchestra to all be in their cowboy outfits as well.
Yeah. They're pretty spotty on if they feel like doing the special outro or not for these things.
Which I have to assume is one of those things, like if you're going to, like the sort of kill your darlings idea of like, all right, are we going to spend the extra time and money to change the ending? Or do we just want to use the exact same one we have filmed and shown 50 times?
Yeah, no one will think anything of it except these 2 idiots 50 years from now or whatever.
Yeah. Now we're on to a very, very strange episode. The Lynn Redgrave May 24th episode of The Muppet Show, which is entirely Robin Hood themed.
Yeah, and also I feel like assumes a lot of familiarity with Lynn Redgrave that doesn't exist in 2022.
Yeah, I think you're just supposed to know she is a stage actor who is accomplished and like essentially lowering herself to do a play of this style with the Muppets.
Yeah, and is exciting enough to structure a whole new kind of episode around somehow.
Which I honestly, I like the idea of them having the flexibility to do something new like this. And I also like the idea of, I'm not saying this is like the case with Lynn Redgrave, but I think if you have a guest coming on who maybe doesn't have the same sort of chops as other people do as far as like interacting with Muppets or doing something against type, like Sylvester Stallone singing and things like that, you could have them come on and do something like this where it's like, hey, you kind of get to do what you do all the time, but in a weird, wacky way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, I think it's another interesting way that they can use the guest star. And I know they do this twice more. We get like themed episodes like this. The Brooke Shields episode is all Alice in Wonderland themed. And then the Marty Feldman episode, I think, is Arabian Nights themed, which is a little bit more worrying. But yes.
I like it better than when they do like Muppets Wizard of Oz and stuff like that, because I feel like a really important element of the Muppets is that you have to know that they are putting on a show and that you have to see like the backstage of it and know that they're like actors playing these roles. So I do like the constant going to backstage and having kind of like a little subplot that boils over into the main play that they're putting on. I think it was really interesting and really fun. I didn't love this episode though.
What'd you rate it?
I gave it 3 stars, which is a little better than average, I guess, because of the extra effort they put into it, but I wasn't blown away.
I gave it 4 stars because I think I did like that concept so much that I do enjoy, like you said, the backstage stuff all bleeding over. Like this feels like you're almost watching a live version of the Muppet Show. Like it's all happening in real time of like they're really trying to keep this show moving along and trying to get people out on stage to do things. And so this felt like a coherent everyone working on the same thing. Whereas like there's so many times we've talked about on the Muppet Show where there will be something happening on stage that no one even mentioned or talked about and it just randomly happens and we never hear anyone say anything about it. Or they'll talk about acts that are going out on stage that we don't get to see. Whereas throughout this entire thing, you have them talking backstage about things that are coming up that actually do end up happening. And people come backstage after the sketch. There are arrows flying everywhere for the archery sketch. So it all ties together.
The kind of building on that, Scooter is the one who's like in charge of the episode tonight since Kermit is starring in it. And at the end of it, I did think Scooter did a great job. Good job, Scooter. You kind of kept everybody together more maybe than Kermit even would have. And another thing I really liked was at the end so the conclusion of the episode is taking place in Piggy's dressing room and they all start singing a song. And then partway through, Lynn Redgrave is like, I think we should probably be doing this out on stage. And they're all like, oh, right. And then they have to run out to finish the show where the audience can actually see them doing it.
Yeah. No, that was a very good little meta moment where, and like the songs are delightful. And I
love the one where they sing the love song about how he still loves her, even though she's not a frog.
Yeah. I think the songwriting in this episode very, very strong,
Mhm.
and very, very catchy. But yeah, weird note about this episode: to ensure that no one got hurt with the arrows flying all over, Jim apparently hired a special stuntman who had archery skills to come in and fire these arrows.
I was wondering about that because there's like a trick. There's like movie magic arrows that
Right.
can like shoot out of a wall instead of into the wall. So I was like, they must be using that. But then sometimes I was like, they're clearly not using that.
Which is more terrifying that, like, yes, you hired a stuntman, whatever, but like things can go wrong. And like Dave Goles' hand inside a Beauregard could have just been
Yeah.
pierced by an arrow.
You can't shoot an arrow through Frank Oz's hand. He's the best puppeteer in history.
Yeah. It'd be a terrible end to Frank Oz's puppetry career of like shot by an arrow.
I was thinking the same thing with the blanks and the guns in the last episode.
Mm.
Because like blanks kill people all the time. So that was also like you're not even looking where you're aiming with this gun, or like you are, but it's up in your hand way above your head and you're trying to like move a Muppet mouth at the same time. Probably very lax safety standards in the 70s too, I would imagine.
I mean, you also have, those are like guns attached to Statler and Waldorf who do not have human
you
hands.
don't have hands.
So they're
I
not
didn't
actually
even
squeezing a
think about
trigger.
that.
So it's like a remote
No.
activated cap gun or something that's just like
Yeah.
shooting around randomly. And
Oh my God.
Again, the lax safety standards, which we will definitely talk about in the next episode, the Leslie Uggams episode. But yes, there's Kermit collars all around in this Robin Hood episode.
Oh, I like that. All the merry men have a Kermit collar on.
Yeah, it's I like that it's like, again, sort of going back to that Tales of the Tinker D kind of vibe, that this collar is part of a costume.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the overall theme of this episode, and there's not a lot to say about this episode because it is so story based, but
Right.
it's also it's different enough, and I enjoy it, that I think it's worth a watch. It's again not one of those that you would show to somebody as like, here is the ideal Muppet Show episode, because it is so weird and different. But I think it's really enjoyable if you've seen a lot of Muppet Show and want something a little different.
I'm kind of warming up to it now that we're talking about it a little bit more.
I do wish they would have worked in like Rolf and some of the other standard Muppet Show sketches, because they kind of do that a little bit, or they at least talk about like the newsman as the town crier, and it's like I wish they would have had Ralph as like the town doctor or something.
I had the same exact thought. It almost sounds like also maybe they play a song that sounds all very similar to the Bear on Patrol theme when two guards start talking to each other. So I kind of thought that maybe would be tied into it somehow too. But yeah, the Muppet Newsman thing was like the first time I've liked Muppet Newsman in a long time. And then it made me think, oh, you could have a vet's hospital, or like an At the Dance would be perfect.
Yeah.
For this theme.
Yeah. No, it just is like, I wish it had, I won't even say I wish they had done this, but like I enjoy the theming of the episode this way. But like when they do the things like the newsman, it does make you think like, oh, what would a Robin Hood vet's hospital look like?
Gonzo's torture scene is like the best Gonzo. I think that's one of my favorite Gonzos we've seen so far.
Yeah. We once again get to see Gonzo experiencing some sexual pleasure from pain.
Yeah. Very directly this time, though.
Yes, this is so skipping around a little bit. There is a part where Gonzo is playing the sheriff of Nottingham and is supposed to be torturing Maid Marian, but what ends up happening is she is torturing him. And so he first gets his thumb in a little thumb screws.
And she's like, what does that do? And he's like, you're going to regret even asking. And then he puts his thumbs in there and has her thumb screw him.
Yep. And then later on, he's on a big old torture rack being stretched out, much like he was in the John Cleese episode. But this time, thoroughly enjoying it in like one of those moments of, if you were...
Maybe that's when he figured out he loves that kind of thing in the John Cleese episode.
Yeah, he was like, any excuse you can write into the script, Kermit, so that I can get stretched out again, please do so.
Well, Kermit's even standing off stage, like acknowledging that this is not supposed to be what is happening. And he's like, oh, Gonzo's trying to kill himself again for sexual pleasure.
But this is one of those scenes where, you know, if you were watching it in the house and people didn't know what you were watching, you might start turning down the volume a little bit, because you just start hearing like these oohs and ahs coming from Gonzo, and then also from Lynn Redgrave as she's torturing him. And so there's a lot of like sort of groaning and moaning happening during this torture rack scene.
Yeah, but it is it's very cute. I think it's interesting that Gonzo always ends up playing the bad guy too, like he did in the Camelot episode, and he will as Darth Vader too.
Yeah. I think he's a good, he's going to try really hard to seem evil, but we all still love him enough to know that he hasn't truly turned to the dark side. Whereas, like, Uncle Deadly, you might actually worry about, like, being evil at times.
Yeah, he might drop a sandbag on somebody's head.
Yeah. So it's like,
Or like Fozzie's one bad day away from turning into the Joker.
Oh, I want to see that movie trailer recut where Fozzie's failing at stand-up and then turns into the Joker.
Oh my God!
Somebody's had to have done that.
That's your next project.
Oh man, it is. I'm gonna spend so much time on that.
But you're not gonna be able to find Fozzie with white face paint on.
I have After
But you can
Effects,
find him dancing.
Sam.
I can dance down those stairs.
I can do special effects. It's fine.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
This one's gonna take 6 months. Thankfully the Joker discourse is real red hot these days.
Well, the new Batman movie's about to come out.
Joker's not in that, Sam.
Well, that remains to be seen.
I guess that's true. I didn't enjoy the two pig guards that were essentially Statler and Waldorf as pigs. Partially because they were just kind of Statler and Waldorf as pigs, and I was like, just let Statler and Waldorf play. Like, let them be the guards.
That would have been fun. Yeah.
And also they do the same joke twice, which was like, okay.
Yeah. I think if Statler and Waldorf had been the pigs, then it wouldn't have made as much sense that Piggy could boss them around. Because again, it seems like the pigs are like some kind of collective that all have each other's back.
I did enjoy. You talked earlier about the sort of meta-ness of this, of like where they need to, like, hey, we're backstage, we should be on stage. There's a couple moments of sort of the puppets acknowledging their limitations as puppets, specifically when Kermit is going to save Maid Marian and he needs to like beat up these guards with his stick. And their fight scene is just like them both waving sticks around, going like, ha, ho, ha, he, ha, hoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, again, an episode I really liked. There's not a lot to say about it because it is just a story of Robin Hood told pretty straightforwardly. And you get to watch, it's kind of like watching like a high school play, but you also have a camera backstage to watch the kids scrambling around to get into costume.
Yeah. Gosh, I like this one now. I'm going to give it another star.
Ew, we did it, folks.
Where we go. Now it's a 4-star episode.
Look at
because
that.
I can't complain about being sick of watching The Muppet Show and then when a very weird episode comes on, not rate it highly. And it was much better than like... it wasn't much better than Hey Cinderella because Hey Cinderella was really funny. But it is way better than... What was the other one? Frog Prince. It's like they've kind of perfected that model a little bit more. I wouldn't want to watch this as a whole like hour-long special, but seeing it in this form, seeing like them return to fantasy is fun.
Yeah, I think it definitely has that charm of the Tinker D Tales from Muppet Land stuff that we don't get to see as often, or we get to see in like one sketch in part of a larger episode. But yeah, this is I like that they do this from time to time because it feels like to us to have like a little break from the regular Muppet Show format is nice, but also like it's letting them stretch some different muscles. It's also worth noting that I don't think we've mentioned her yet on this podcast, but somebody who is now working with the Muppets pretty much full time is Catherine Mullen, who you will see sort of playing some random extra female characters on the Muppet Show at this point. But she joined the Muppet Show crew. I guess she joined the Muppet crew working on the Muppet movie. And so she became the third full-time female Muppeteer on the Muppet Show.
Wow.
Yeah.
She played Moki.
Yes. And so Catherine Mullen goes on to play a lot of characters, including Moki on the old Fraggle Rock and Cotter Pendoozer. But she also, goes on to assist Frank Oz with Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, cool.
And you know who Catherine Mullen was at least married to at one point. I don't know if they're still married. I didn't look that far into it.
Who?
Michael Frith. The man who draws Miss Piggy so sexy and makes all those calendars.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem his type.
Because she's not a pig.
Yeah.
But yes.
That's neat.
Worth noting, Catherine Mullen is here now working with the Muppets on things.
I gotta admit something I've never admitted to anyone before.
Oh, God.
I had a huge crush on Moki Fraggle when I was a little kid.
Oh, interesting.
I loved Moki.
Have you
She
watched...
looked so cozy all the time.
Have you watched the new Fraggle Rock at all?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Moki's a little...
Is that gonna...
I don't know if I'm curious if it'll either enhance or decrease your crush on Moki.
She's a little what?
Well, she's different. She's a little different because she's not performed by Catherine Mullen. She's got a slightly different voice, a slightly different look. So, yeah, I'm just curious if it changes your crush at all.
It is weird that that Moki seems to be the only one who looks different. Is there a reason for that in the show?
Not that they say. Maybe they just wanted to, I don't know. Like, I don't know. They make her a little bit more modern or something. I don't know. It's not really addressed. But yeah. When we eventually get there in a dozen years, I'll be excited to hear what you think about it.
I was thinking about Yoda the other day, and it occurred to me again that Frank Oz played him, and I was like, God, he's a national treasure.
Yeah, there are times now where, like, after watching so many Muppet things, that I'll see something like a puppet in Star Wars, or specifically Yoda, where I'm just like, that's a Muppet. Like, it's so weird that that's just a Muppet.
That is Miss Piggy, this green.
Oh, yeah, and there's certain, like, Frank Oz voices, too, where I'm like, he'll like, tread a little closer to the Yoda line, and I'm just like, that's so strange that in one context it's a very serious, dramatic character who I can watch die, and it's actually a very sad moment. And then it's just like a bear roller skating around a backstage
But if
set.
you watched Fozzie die, that would be really sad too.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't want to watch Fozzie die. There's some very sad Muppet moments throughout the years, like in A Very Merry Muppet Christmas, where Kermit has moments where he's like declaring that he does not want to live, and it's like, Jesus, this is heavy. So yeah, I'll put it on record. I don't want to see a Muppet die ever. And now, skipping way, way ahead to July 5th, 1979, the Leslie Uggams episode of The Muppet Show, which aired after the Muppet movie has now premiered, which makes some of its storyline a little bit more confusing to people who may have seen them in that order.
Yeah, I don't get it at all.
Leslie Uggams we have seen on a special Sesame Street Christmas where she was jonesing for Oscar. And
was also Oscar's mom.
Yes, and yes, very confusing for Oscar. And we also saw her dancing around sexily with Julie Andrews in One Step into Spring.
Yep, we sure did. I like her though. She seems so nice.
Oh yeah, there's some things in this episode I don't enjoy. But there's specific moments in this episode with Leslie Uggams specifically where I am like, yes, she belongs along with the Muppets. She should hang out with the Muppets all the time. But yeah, would you rate this episode?
I gave this episode 3 stars.
I gave it 3.5.
Okay.
It just eked its way into a little bit of an extra star there. But Big Bird is here. We get to see Big Bird. Apparently, they tricked Carol Spinney into flying across the world to do one episode of the Muppet Show for some reason.
Barely do anything. Yeah. Yeah, this especially the Miss Piggy Big Bird scene made me so sad that those two don't get to be mean to each other more often. Because I feel like those two are like so good at what they do that obviously like any character they played together would be like rivals of some sort. Or just like any skit they would have together would be amazing.
Yeah, one thing that I have found in preparing for our upcoming Sesame Street episode is, Frank Oz is good no matter what platform he's on. And there are so many very, very enjoyable Frank Oz moments on Sesame Street as well. Grover is eking his way up into the top tier Muppets for me as I watch more and more Sesame Street. But seeing our Muppet performers like Richard Hunt and Jerry Nelson, Frank Oz, Jim Henson, all these guys interact on Sesame Street now is delightful. Because even like the Sesame Street I grew up with wasn't those guys. So getting to see them like go back now and watch these things, like so many of them just feel like Muppet Show sketches. And it's great. But this episode opens up with a monster number with most of the monsters we have available. We've got Mutations, Gorgon Heap playing the drums. We've got Timmy Monster there with a tail, which I don't remember when he got this tail. I feel like the last time we saw him, he didn't have it.
I think that's true. I didn't remember the tail either.
I know his outdated puppet in the opening theme song does not have a tail. And I feel like the last time we saw him dancing around, I didn't notice a tail. So it was, startling. But we also have the Mutations, Sweetums, Dog Leon, Mean Mama. And they're all just having a great time.
I don't like the Muppet Monsters, I think I've decided. I think Sweetums is too good for them.
Ooh, you know what? I don't disagree because I do feel like they just throw them out there randomly sometimes to be like, they're just monsters, but they don't have a lot of
Yeah.
personality and they don't let them sort
Yeah.
of be a character.
That's very old-timey Muppet too, I feel like. And a lot of these originated on old-timey Muppet things. Like Mean Mama was a guest show, like a guest was a talk show character, I think, right? Like she was the punchline of some skit they did on some late night show or something like that. They feel like the last Muppets that are just like, wow, isn't it wacky that this is a puppet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they sort of had this full body thing going with the Thogs of the world and then Sweetums. And then they were just like, let's make a bunch more of these full-bodied things, but give them a little less of a heart.
And they kind of look like shit a little bit. Timmy Monster especially does not look good.
Yeah, Timmy Monster and Mean
think.
Mama and Gorgon Heap feels like a first draft of Sweetums or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but Sweetums is like beautiful and his
Yeah.
eyes move and his mouth moves. And I'm sure all the rest of them do too. But Sweetums is just Sweetums. He's just special.
Well, and in the credits of this episode, it seems like they got some dancers again from the Royal Opera House to come dance for them in this episode. And I think you can tell because Timmy Monster a few times is doing things where he's trying to like draw attention to himself in a way that feels like the opposite of what usually happens in these numbers. And so I feel like some dancer was like, ha, ha, I'm a Muppet, everyone look at me. And he's doing these weird little hops that Timmy Monster has never done. And he's like, just...
He's a little bit more like Mickey Mouse at Disneyland or something.
Yes, it's a little bit more mascot-y than just a background monster. But this does lead to one of my favorite moments with Leslie Uggams when they are coming backstage after they've just finished their number. We get like a genuine moment of like Leslie Uggams being friends with the monsters, which like she's palling around with them and like cracking jokes with the monsters as they're walking off stage. And I'm like, yeah, she could date Oscar.
She might be. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe it all worked out. But yes, the big story happening in this episode for us, as far as people who watch the Muppet stuff in chronological order and want to mark landmark events, Gonzo and Camilla's first date is going to happen.
Camilla's first mention by name too, I think, right? Or no, he's like randomly says the name Camilla for a chicken, I think.
Yeah, in the Liberace episode, they mention Camilla,
right?
But we don't get like a, hey, look, this is my girlfriend Camilla type of thing.
Yeah, she's just a list of other chickens.
Yeah, and so we've heard about Camilla in the past, but not directly, like, as she wasn't a character.
Mm-hmm. Now she gets her own dressing room.
She gets her own dressing room, and even though Sam said he doesn't like the sneezing allergy joke, Camilla doing it made me laugh a lot.
It's very funny the way she rockets around the room so hard. That was good.
It's basically like if you imagine this Camilla puppet as like a boxing glove on some puppeteer's hand, it's as if they're just running across the room and punching the wall as hard as they can and then running back to the other side of the room and doing it again, because no puppet has so violently like flown into a wall before.
No, this is the fastest a Muppet has ever moved before.
Yeah. But yes,
I just think for their first skit together, it's kind of a little bit of a flop. It's just kind of weird and goes on for a long time, and it's kind of like, don't really get what's happening exactly.
Well, as we mentioned before, like the order of viewing here, like the Muppet movie came out like a month before this episode airs, or like a few weeks before this episode airs. So people have also seen a movie where Gonzo and Camilla are hanging out together as if they've been dating for a long time.
Forever, even before they met any of the rest of the Muppets.
Correct. And obviously the Muppet movie is, not canon, I guess, as far as like when Robin asks Kermit, like, is this how the Muppets met? And he says, I'm going to blow.
Approximate.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, so it's just one of those things of like, if you had just seen the Muppet movie and then you watch this, you're like, okay, I guess this is how they met, kind of. Yeah,
but then of course, as we've said before, the Sweetums ending of the Muppet movie completely throws that off too.
That is true. There is no Muppet canon. We should just accept it, but I guess that's something we cannot do.
But it is weird. Like the Muppet movie treats Camilla like she's been around on the show forever.
Yeah, and the fact that they would have filmed the Muppet movie like the summer before this episode was even filmed. Like this episode was filmed in December of 1978, and they filmed the Muppet movie in like July 1978.
Yeah.
So they were filming that movie like long before like Camilla was even established as a Muppet Show character, really.
Yeah. How did they not just throw her into the show before this? It's a very odd decision.
Yeah. But she's here now. We'll see her forever. And she's our Muppet of the Week this week, so we'll talk even more about her later.
Yeah.
Then it's time for Sam's favorite Muppet Labs sketch ever.
I thought it worked really well.
No, it does work incredibly well. And it just makes me so nervous when Muppets are near open flames.
Yeah.
And there's not only like Beaker walks into frame carrying a lighted blowtorch, which again, just if he drops that, bad news. But then he starts a real fire in this little garbage can and then immediately makes the fire 5 times bigger. And you hear Bunsen be like, "Oh dear." And I'm like, yeah, that fire had to be close to Dave Goelz' head.
I feel like that's the kind of activity that gets Beaker the reputation for being stupid. But that's really Bunsen's problem.
Yeah, he
like,
told
Bunsen
him this is
said-
fireproof paper. So
Yeah, he put him in this situation. And he invented flammable water and apparently didn't tell Beaker about that either.
which again, what is the purpose of that invention? I guess he says he's going to
To
run
solve
cars
the gas
on it. Yeah, that's
crisis.
right. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He does have a good reason for that one. But yeah, it reminded me of the old Wontkins days when they would just like light Wontkins on fire.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
These two are very Wilkins and Wonkins. I never really thought about that.
like less deliberately like violent. Like Bunsen doesn't just shoot Beaker with a cannon
Yeah.
or light him on
I
fire if he
could-
doesn't like coffee.
But I could see them very easily having been invented for a series of commercials like they were doing in the 60s.
Oh yeah, they could still do commercials now with
Yeah.
Bunsen and Beaker.
Yeah.
But then we get the moment when Big Bird gets to meet Miss Piggy. Big Bird is not aware of who Miss Piggy is, and Miss Piggy's trying to convince Big Bird that she's a star. She is the star here at the Muppet Show. And Big Bird has to introduce himself as, well, I'm a friend of Kermit's. We come from the same street.
Yeah, it confirms my theory from earlier that Kermit lives on Sesame Street and it's the same guy. And then
Yeah.
he just goes to work at the Muppet Theater.
Yeah, which means that I guess the Muppet Theater is somewhere near enough to New York that he can commute.
Yeah.
Because, we do see, like, Kermit has an apartment on Sesame Street at times.
Right.
But, yeah, I think our theory had been that there's, like, kind of 2 different Kermits here. But guess not. This bridges that gap.
He's just got a very different work persona.
Yeah. He doesn't push people. Well, I guess he's not in charge at Sesame Street.
No, that's true. He can take more of a back seat and just let the kids do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah, here he has to like make sure stuff's going correctly, but at Sesame Street
Yeah.
he's just kind of there for whatever they want him to do.
Yeah.
He gets to be a journalist, so he's got a whole different job.
That's true.
But Miss Piggy asks about Sesame Street and says, "Isn't that cute little children's show with the puppets?" To which Big Bird says yes, and
Yeah,
raises some
alarming.
questions about what he knows.
Maybe he thinks he's real, but he knows Bert and Ernie ain't real.
Right. Big Bird can see Frank Oz and Jim Henson down there, and it's like, well, okay, they're puppets. I look down, I see bird feet. I'm a bird.
Yeah. Then she tries to fucking punch him.
She does. Which, again, there's a few things that happened to Big Bird in this episode that wouldn't happen on Sesame Street.
And are uncomfortable.
Yes, and
Yeah,
had he
him
been
being punched
punched, that would have been
Yeah.
that would have been crossing a line, I think.
What would his reaction even be? I feel like he'd die instantly or something.
It'd be like a kid when they fall and scrape their knee. He would just like sit on the
Yeah.
stairs crying, and everyone would be like, "Oh, we messed up."
This
Like,
is literally the saddest thing that's ever happened in human history.
yeah, and there's plenty of examples of Big Bird being sad out there in the world,
Yeah.
and they're never fun to watch. It's always
No,
the saddest thing. So
He kind of overreacts to being sad too and tries to like die on a roof and stuff.
we've seen him almost freeze to death because of Christmas. So yes, this is a delightful little moment immediately ruined by the appearance of New Zealand.
Oh my god, this is so confusing. Why are they trying to make him happen?
Oh, because they sing a song called "Here You Come Again," and guess what? Boomerangs come back around again.
I guess that's a flimsy premise.
My note just says, "Fuck, I hate New Zealand."
They could have just made her sing with Kermit. That would have been cute.
Yeah, and we
Even pervy Kermit is preferable to New Zealand.
Yeah, we hear a couple of the same jokes we've already heard from New Zealand in his like 3 appearences, which is you got to have
Yeah.
soul and just for the halibut.
Yeah, there's like 4 fish jokes, so
Yeah, and well, in a high school play that I was in, I got to make a just for the halibut joke.
Uh-huh.
And back in high school, making that joke, I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, great.
Yes, you're almost swearing.
Yeah, almost swearing in a school play. Badass.
Cool.
Uh,
Were you playing New Zealand?
not to my knowledge.
Are the fish he throws dead, you think, or are they alive?
They're at least dead by the time they're coming back, I think. There's like some trauma happening there. But they've also been out of water for a while, it seems.
That's true. I thought they were dead, but then when he throws a swordfish, they make a sound like dolphins, kind of?
Yeah,
So
maybe
I
he's
don't
just
know.
got a large tank off screen that he's picking them up from.
And he puts them straight back in.
Yeah.
Because he loves them.
But we have a UK spot in this episode where Miss Piggy sings Mad About the Frog. A delightful little song where she's just lamenting that she cannot be with Kermit. It's worth noting this song is based on a real song called Mad About the Boy, which was introduced in a 1932 review called Words and Music, which is just, the laziest title for a show.
Well, it was still early on. They hadn't used all the titles yet.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know, have we called anything Words and Music yet? It's like, no, why would we? It's like, well, this one's it. This song was written by Noel Coward and was originally meant in the show to be about the unrequited love for a film star. And so it was written to be sung by female characters, but Noel Coward, who was gay, wrote a version of this from a guy's point of view towards a male film star, and it was deemed too risque to be performed. So it was like never performed, but apparently it like made references and things about like the femininity of the character. They talked about unsuccessful attempts at conversion therapy with a psychiatrist.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, and that was 1932 that was written. But the verses were never performed, again, because management thought it was way too risque.
Was that the original version of the song, or was that...
It seems like he just wrote the two versions. So it seems like he wrote this version for this review and then was like, oh, I'd also like to write this version of the song.
Okay.
And then everyone was like, no, you can't perform that.
Yeah.
We get a bear on patrol with a creepy-looking bear pig who is being arrested.
It's like he shaved Fozzie and glued some of his hair on the back of his head.
Yeah, it's sort of like the creepy pig Fozzie we had when the pigs took over the show, but like slightly less creepy.
Yeah, slightly less naked.
Yeah, and performed by Steve Whitmire, so he sounds a little like Rizzo. But yeah, he was arrested for impersonating an officer because he kind of looks like Fozzie and behaves like Fozzie.
Well, and he does literal voice impersonations of officers.
Yes.
And I think I just really like Steve Whitmire, and I like his voice a lot, and he plays like a greasy little guy like this very well.
Yeah, anytime we get a new voice brought into the Muppet world, too, it's exciting because we get a whole new cast of characters that they can play.
Yeah, and it feels weird to have like his very 90s feeling, like since he was around, like he was the first Kermit I ever heard probably.
Yeah.
In one of those movies, but it's interesting to have like this feeling of modern Muppets start to like glom onto this very 70s still Muppet Show.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when something that feels very much like in my memory of a thing they started with, like Muppets Tonight, comes up in these Muppet Show episodes where I'm like, oh, all right, that's not as new as I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, when like fandoms of various things, whether it's Star Wars or whatever, will freak out about something that they think is a new thing. That's like, what? I can't believe a character could do that. They've never done that before. And then people will be like, well, here's the 5 times they've actually done that in the last 5 decades. So it's not new. Don't be mad. And I
can't believe Luke is kind of sad and conflicted about being a Jedi and not a perfect hero.
Yeah, why isn't he just kicking ass?
Yeah.
Wait, he die? He can die? What? My Luke Skywalker wouldn't die.
Oh, he almost died in every movie multiple times.
Yeah, he held a lightsaber up to his face and almost turned it on in the very first scene with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, yeah, that doofus could definitely die.
And his first line is about crying about not getting to go on his little spaceship.
But yes, somehow we got there from Bear on Patrol. And then David Laser gets his wish. He must be happy. They have found another use for the Vendaface puppet. It is now.
He maybe wrote this skit and was like, guys.
He just slid it across the table. Like, so about that Vendaface puppet that's just collecting dust in the back room. What if we took off the little facial features things it has and just replaced them with weird stained glass random images?
Uh-huh.
And now
apparently this doesn't work either, though, because it only shows up once.
Yep. So this is
As
Venda Wish.
Wish.
Venda Wish, kind of the same concept as Venda Face,
Yeah.
is here to help you out. There's a man who wants to be taller, so he walks up to Venda Wish, and Venda Wish just stretches his neck out to be about 2-3 feet long,
Yeah.
and now he's taller. Boom.
Kind of I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
This is something you could do with like a doctor, or it could be like a veterinarian's hospital or something where they stretch a guy's neck out. You didn't need to bring back this prop very confusingly for this
David
situation.
Laser disagrees. Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
In his budget line item, he had haven't used Venda Face in 3 years. What the hell do we do with this thing? Make it worthwhile to store this thing. But speaking of the veterinarian's hospital, I felt like later on this episode, Bunsen is the one who fixes this long-necked man
Mhm.
by swinging a baseball bat at him and forcing him to duck, which magically fixes
Yeah.
his neck.
Yeah.
But this is one where I was like, oh man, we could have had a veterinarian's hospital dealing with a long-necked man and gotten a lot of neck puns out of this. And then we get the what starts off very charming and fun and then turns a little creepy.
Yeah.
Because we get Gonzo singing his song to Camilla, which includes the line, "You're prettier by far than Godzilla, Camilla."
Terrific. Love it.
I knew you'd love that line. But then, as Sam alluded to earlier, Big Bird walks in, stumbles in maybe, of like, he does not know why he's here. He doesn't know what's
Yeah.
going on. He doesn't know who these people are. He's very confused about everything that's happening. But while he's confused, Gonzo is attracted to Big Bird.
To a child.
Yeah, who, like, yeah, there's not much you can say about that. That like
No.
doesn't make it worse.
It doesn't work at all. They should have just not done this.
Oh yeah, and Big Bird is like repeatedly saying throughout it, like, I don't even know what's happening, and he's like, "You're so attractive, giant bird, come here." And so yeah, it's an unfortunately uncomfortable moment where
Dark time for Gonzo.
yeah, and it's just the less said about it, the better.
It just is like disappointing that this is the first Gonzo Camilla episode because none of it works for me very much, except for when she dances with Leslie
Yeah,
Uggams.
that's true. Their origin story is not as great as
The
you might
Muppet
imagine.
movie's a much better origin for them because she's so like they're so cute together,
Mhm.
and she like snuggles up into him and stuff. I
And they've been
that.
like working together with this plumbing company or whatever for a while, and
yeah. I choose to believe this is canon, the plumbing origin.
yeah. And the closing number is Leslie and Big Bird singing "Love Will Keep Us Together" while out bird watching. And the only thing I really like about this one is that I really do like that woodpecker Muppet that shows up from time to time.
Yeah,
he's like
I
a
like him
perfectly
too.
designed Muppet.
He's really cute.
and has no character whatsoever, but he just pops up when they need a bird.
Yeah, there's a lot of bird Muppets that are really cute. Like I love Little Bird from Sesame Street. I think Little Bird is like one of the cutest Muppets ever.
Yeah.
And it's too bad he didn't show up more often. But this one, it's very similar to one of the first public appearances of Big Bird outside of Sesame Street when he's dancing with all those go-go girls. Do you remember that? And he doesn't say anything.
yeah.
He's like played by a different person.
Yeah.
And they're bird watching, but they like keep missing him.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what show that was on, but yeah, like they had hired a dancer to portray Big Bird
Yeah.
instead of Carol Spinney because he was just mostly dancing.
Yeah.
And Carol Spinney has said he's not a good dancer.
So it feels like a redo of that. And it takes so long for Big Bird to start singing that it feels like he's not going to sing. And it's just kind of like waiting for that the whole time. And then being like, okay, well, I guess he's not going to sing for some reason. And then he does start singing just like one line. It just feels like they could have done this way better to me.
Yeah, it did seem like, I don't know.
It was a big collar around her neck at the end.
Yeah,
Weird.
that was strange. I didn't really understand that either.
No.
But yeah, just not, I don't know, not the best.
Not good.
Yeah, it didn't seem like
Right.
a solid idea of like, it seemed like it was just that first line of Leslie and Big Bird go bird watching.
Yeah, why couldn't you have Big Bird come out and like they could have sang a Sesame Street song together or something like that or something.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it just
But they spend the whole episode being like, "Oh, is Big Bird here? Yeah, Big Bird's here. We're gonna have a Big Bird number, and then this is the Big Bird number, and the other one is him getting hit on by an adult."
Yeah, and I kind of wish they would have had more. They do it like 2 or 3 times, But I wish they had Big Bird wandering into more sketches and more people and like meeting other characters and being like, I don't know where I am, because we get that a bit with Miss Piggy, and then we get it with the Gonzo thing, and obviously we see it a bit at the beginning when he like stumbles out through the curtain as well. But I feel like if he was just like sort of ruining sketches all night, or like walking in and just being like, what's going on here?
Yeah. He could have been a veterinarian's hospital subject.
Yeah. Just we're all overwhelmed with what to do with this giant bird.
Holy shit.
They could have got so many bird puns out of that sketch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, do you have any thoughts on season 3 overall, Sam?
I think it was the best season by far so far. It wasn't perfect by any means, and the Chris Christopherson episode, I think, was a pile of trash.
Yeah, I feel like we only had like one truly bad episode, and it was
was that the first one?
No, that was like the 10th one.
Okay.
But we also had the Spike Milligan one this season. So there was some trash this season.
Yeah.
But I think on average, a lot more highs than lows.
Yeah. It came into its own. I think you said earlier, it's like, since it's so good now, when it's bad, it's more noticeable that it's bad. But it certainly wasn't as bad as it could be in the first 2 seasons. And thankfully, they really dialed down the Beauregard content after the first couple episodes, too.
He is in the Roy Rogers episode quite a bit, but thankfully just playing harmonica and not really impacting anything.
Yeah, and he's in the Robin Hood episode quite a bit, too, but he's kind of doing his job, which is a little less annoying.
And he just gets like one line per episode as opposed to like being a huge part of something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for seasons 4 and 5. Not in the like, monotonous having to watch Muppet Show every single week kind of way, but in the like to see what they're doing with the show kind of thing.
It does, and it is interesting to see the things like, I can't think of any examples, but when you do see something that carries on in Muppets forever, and I'm sure we'll start seeing more and more of that. And it's very weird that the Muppets will start existing in the 80s, and I'm interested to see that too.
Yeah, there's this whole era of the 80s Muppets I know so little about.
Yeah. Floyd starts wearing his like different coat and like his Near jacket or whatever.
Yeah.
Looking like an 80s guy.
Yeah. Piggy's
Putting
going to get her
jeans on.
Piggy's going to get her perm at some point.
Ooh, that's exciting. I love that Piggy always gets like the hairstyle of the moment. She got like the Rachel for such a long time.
She did. She was a brunette for a little while.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up with our Muppet of the Week, we did watch one more thing, and that was the Hello, Here is Berlin. Really, we just watched the Harlem Globetrotters and the Monsters who sort of failed to play basketball. So there's not a lot to say about that. But the whole thing was apparently like hosted by Liza Minnelli, which we did not get to see any of. And there are 3 Muppet numbers in this concert that we only got to see one of.
Are they all monster stuff?
Yep. So there's a disco version of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
Oh, of course.
Which has all the monsters and Fletcher Bird come out and dance. Huh. And then they come out and do another dance to some instrumental standards that ends in a line kick, like a can type of thing. And then the Harlem Globetrotters thing happens. So it really feels like they just threw some Muppet Monsters at this special and didn't really have any
phoned in.
Yes. They were just like, go out there and dance.
Yeah.
Didn't get to see that. Don't have much to say about it other than we can't really watch it, but you can watch that one clip on YouTube and sort of get the gist of what it seems like the whole thing was.
The Harlem Globetrotters blow the Muppets out of the water, really, with the performance in this one too. They're very good.
Yeah, but they miss a couple shots, which was like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that's true. But I just am losing my taste for the Muppet Monsters.
Yeah, that's fair. For now, let's move on to our Muppet of the Week. And this week's Muppet of the Week is Camilla the Chicken. And we've talked about her a bit before, I think, in the episode where Gonzo was our Muppet of the Week. I think we talked a little bit about Camilla. And I think I might have even said that I don't know if Camilla will ever get her own Muppet of the Week segment. But surprise, she is.
You're a liar.
I am. But her debut, I guess, sort of is in this Leslie Uggams episode, technically, because it's the first time we're seeing her as a character. But she's been referenced in the Liberace episode, and I think one other episode they said Camilla as well. And U.S. audiences have also seen her in the Muppet movie before they have seen this episode. So her debut is a little muddled.
She is fully fleshed out and very different than she is in the Muppet Show.
Yeah. And as we've talked about before, we have seen Muppet chickens for a while now, going all the way back to the Muppet Musicians of Bremen. So there's been chickens who have sort of looked like Camilla for a while. But Camilla's main performer is Jerry Nelson. He started performing her in 1978 when they started filming like these episodes in the Muppet movie, and performed Camilla all the way until 2003's Muppets Party Cruise. Along the way, there has been some other performers stepping in to perform Camilla. Steve Whitmire performed Camilla in Gonzo and the Giant Chicken, which I don't know really what that is. It seems like it's maybe like an audio
play or something.
Yeah, like maybe a tape or a record or something they put out. I think it's it's a book. It's like a Muppets read-along book. So they would like release the book and then also release like the soundtrack, the tape or whatever you could listen to while you read it.
Huh.
Richard Hunt performed Camilla in Gonzo Presents Muppet Weird Stuff, which was like a VHS tape they put out with some clips of Muppet Show and stuff. Alice Didion, the only woman to play Camilla as far as I could find, plays Camilla in The Muppets Wizard of Oz in 2005. And in 2014, Peter Linz performed Camilla on America's Got Talent, where the Muppets showed up. But since 2008, Camilla's sort of full-time performer has been Matt Vogel. He's the Muppets in one man, but also because he took over a lot of Jerry Nelson's characters, so I think it makes sense for him to be the heir to the Camilla throne. But yeah, some fun facts about Camilla. Gonzo, as we have seen already in this episode, will often confuse her with other chickens, and he says that all chickens look the same to him. And that apparently comes from some real-life confusion, because Dave Goelz said in an interview, whenever it came time to shoot with Camilla, we could never remember what color her eyes were. Sometimes we used blue, sometimes green, and so forth. So Jim and I developed this theory that Gonzo actually couldn't tell the difference between the chickens, and whatever chicken he could get to come along with him, he would call Camilla.
No.
So
she loves him, though.
So that makes it sound worse that like any random chicken that Gonzo is next to that he calls Camilla is just a Camilla of many.
No, I don't like that.
Yeah. But then in the book Fozzie's Fabulous Easter Parade, we get to see Camilla's house, which is a gazebo that has a mailbox out front labeled Camilla's Place. And inside,
nice.
The only furnishings are green curtains on the windows and a straw nest sitting in the middle of the floor.
Well, at least she has a house.
Yeah. Or a gazebo that maybe she just took over. And on the old Muppet Babies series, Camilla was just a rag doll that Gonzo had, who would sometimes come to life in Gonzo's imagination.
That's really weird.
Yeah. And now in the new 2018 reboot of Muppet Babies, she's actually like a baby chick. I don't know that she gets much of a character or that she appears many times, but she's cute. So, Sam, knowing what you know now about Camilla, knowing she's going to be around forever, what will you rate Camilla the chicken?
Oh, I think she's kind of nice. I like that there's a Muppet in a committed, loving relationship. And I don't buy in the theory that it's a different chicken every time. I think I'm going to give Camilla a 4.
Nice.
She makes Gonzo happy,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters.
I also really like Camilla, and I don't really know why. I think she's just like, again, the relationship is part of it, but I feel like she also keeps Gonzo in his place. We get a lot of personality from Camilla through just like little clucks and balks and stuff here and there.
It is very funny that she's just a chicken, and that they never do anything more with her than she's just a chicken.
Yeah. But I'm going to give her a 52.
Wow.
It's pretty high up on my scale.
Yeah.
But I do like her a lot, and I think even though this tale of their first date is not the best, I do enjoy that she will now be a part of the Muppet crew from now on.
Yeah, not everybody has a great first date.
So, Sam, have you had any time to enjoy any non-Muppet things this week?
Yeah, I watched kind of a lot of stuff this week. I watched this show called After Party, which is like maybe on Hulu. I don't know. Rachel sometimes just turns this stuff on, and I wander in and watch it. It's like a comedy with Sonic the Hedgehog guy,
Ben Schwartz,
and Tiffany Haddish in it, Alana Glazer, Dave Franco, and it's kind of just like, it reminds me a lot of not Anchorman, but like a show, like a comedy that would have come out around that time period. It's like very like what's that called when there's a bunch of different famous people in a show?
A movie?
No. It's a cast and it's a
Ensemble?
Yes. Very ensemble based, like all of the hottest comedy stars like in this show, and it's a murder mystery which actually has like real clues, and everybody's like telling their side of the story, and you can see where those don't like mesh with each other, and there's like things in the background that you can pick out. It's not over yet, so I don't know if it will end satisfactorily, but so far it's good. We also watched we burned through all of this season of Righteous Gemstones, which is not over yet either. But Rachel doesn't like this season as much as the first season, but I think, have you watched that show?
I have not.
But I think this season is very good too. And it has like a professional wrestling kind of like flashbacks to like very early days of professional wrestling, because one of the characters started out as a professional wrestler and kind of took what he learned there to the like pomp of mega churchdom, and kind of like the organized crime involved in, or like that kind of like small professional wrestling and stuff like that. It's very interesting. I love the episodes of that show that do flashbacks, and there's a couple of those so far this time that are very good. And then we watched last night Power of the Dog. Have you watched that yet?
Nope.
It's got nominated for Best Film of the Year, Oscar Film of the Year, whatever that's called.
Kirsten Dunst and Benedict Cumberbatch, right?
Yeah. It's a cowboy like psychological like thriller that is good, but people fucking are flipping out over it. And I didn't quite pick up on what people were flipping out over. It's worth watching, especially since it's nominated for Best Film, but I wasn't quite there for me. It was like the cinematography was not quite as cool as it could have been for like how grandiose the settings were and stuff like that. But it was a good time. How about you?
I watched a couple things this week. One, I've been starting to watch Murderville, which is a new Netflix series.
That's what we thought. I think we thought we were watching Murderville when we started watching After Party.
Very different shows.
They are?
Yes. So After Party is one where it's like each episode is sort of like a different genre because you're seeing a story from a different character's point of view. Murderville is Will Arnett playing a homicide detective, and it's just a comedy about these homicide detectives trying to solve a crime. And in each episode, there is a script for every character except one, which is the guest star of the week. And so in the first episode, it's Conan O'Brien. The second episode, it's Marshawn Lynch. The third episode is Kumail Nanjiani, which is the one I just watched. And so they come in, they have no idea what's happening. Everyone else has a script and is telling a story, and they have to just improv their ways through this. And then at the end, they have to solve the crime, or at least attempt to.
That's fun. So it's like a murder mystery party or whatever.
Yeah, it's like an escape room, a murder mystery party, but only one person is playing.
That's cool.
And some of them are better than others at playing along and not laughing. And yeah, it's sort of a hit and miss show. Like, it's definitely, you go into it with sort of the attitude you go into like a Whose Line Is It Anyway, where you're like, it's improv, not all of it's gonna land, and I'm just kind of here to watch somebody bumble through this. Marshawn Lynch.
What's the best one so far?
I think the Marshawn Lynch one is my favorite so far of the first three I've watched. There's some very funny moments in there. Usually there's a moment in each episode where they have to go undercover in disguise, and they'll get an earpiece where Will Arnett tells them like what to say, and they have to like say it.
Is Marshawn Lynch the football player?
Yeah.
So they don't just have actors in it.
No, it's like
traditional actors.
Right. No, it's mostly comedians, I think, but they also have some other people coming in there. He does a very good job. And yeah, it's varying degrees of success with like who actually guesses the correct murderer.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that improv stuff like that can be painful occasionally, but that sounds like a fun idea at least.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a ton of like laugh out loud moments, but there's like a lot of light chuckles happening throughout.
That's kind of how After Party is too. I'm not like laughing my whole ass off, except occasionally I will, but yeah.
And the other thing I enjoyed this week was Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Oh yeah, I finally went to see that.
Yeah, I finally went and saw it. It was great. Everyone was right.
Did you know anything about it going in?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been really hard to avoid spoilers the last few weeks. Like, everyone was just kind of like, all right, everyone's seen it. Let's start all the stories about who's in it and how. I was starting to get like so many YouTube video recommendations and like Instagram Explore page recommendations of just like bootleg scenes from the movie that people were like filming in the theater. And so I avoided all of those before I went and saw it. So I knew the gist of some things and like who was in it, obviously, but I was able to avoid exactly like how those moments happened and how they all came together, and some of the comedy that I did not expect, but really, really lands, especially from one of the surprise characters. Just overall, really, really enjoyed that movie. But yeah, highly recommend if you're, not wanting to go to theaters. Totally understand. Sorry, the world has been trying to spoil that movie left and right for you, but I think it should be streaming like next month, and I would definitely recommend checking it out.
I think it's worth watching without knowing very much about it, and it was much funner than a lot of the other recent Marvel movies have been. I think it was very refreshing, even though it's based on a very long running film series. It was like, this is fun. In a way that's less conflicting than like what was that one called that you hated? The newest one before this one about the immortal guys.
Eternals,
yes. Less not conflicting in a way that Eternals was. Like, there's stuff to enjoy in Eternals, but overall it's just not a very good movie. Yeah. But Spider-Man, pretty good movie.
Yeah. Honestly, like, they could have messed that up so easily. Like, No Way Home could have just been a huge mess of a movie with all the things that they tried to cram in there, but they, I think, handled it incredibly well. And
everybody loves Spider-Man. How could you not love Spider-Man?
So before we go, we need to let you know what we're watching next time. And next time is not next week because we are taking a week off from podcasting.
Sorry. We're tired.
We are tired. This is a nice little season break from the Muppet Show, and we're going to use that time to watch and research a whole lot of Sesame Street because our next episode that you will hear is covering the first 10 years of Sesame Street.
Kinda.
Yeah, we didn't watch 1,000
version.
episodes.
No.
But to get the feeling for what the first 10 years of Sesame Street were like, we are going to be watching the season premiere of each of the first 10 seasons. We actually watched the first one in our very first Sesame Street episode, so we're watching the next 9 after that. All of those, for the most part, are on HBO Max if you want to watch along with us, although they are organized very weirdly, so you'll probably have to do a little bit of research to figure out which episodes are actually the season premieres because they're not in the correct order on HBO Max. And the season premiere of episode 9 is not on HBO Max. It only exists on a DVD called Old School.
After watching it, do you know, is there a reason that it is not?
Nothing I could see. I think the season 9 episodes, I think that's the season they go to Hawaii. And so there's like a lot of the Hawaii episodes are on HBO Max instead.
Okay.
So I don't really know.
They're not like all smoking cigarettes in the first episode or something?
No. Not that I remember. I think I would have remembered that. So we'll be watching those episodes, the season premieres, and those old school DVDs that have the season 9 premiere also have a lot of classic sketches on there and a thing they call classic cuts, which is basically just things from throughout that season that people remember and still talk about today. So we are watching the season premiere of all the first 10 seasons of Sesame Street and all of the classic cuts from the Volume 1 and Volume 2 old school DVD sets. Now, obviously, a lot of you out there do not have those DVD sets, but I am going to be putting together a full list of everything we're watching and a playlist to as many of those sketches that are on YouTube as possible.
Wow. What a guy.
So you'll be able to watch a lot of what we're going to watch, and also it's just going to be sort of a more free-form discussion talking about our feelings on Sesame Street now that we've watched a lot more of it than we previously had. And on top of all of that, we're also watching a special called A Walking Tour of Sesame Street, which is hosted by James Earl Jones. Just, hanging out on Sesame Street. The music for this here podcast was made by our friend Tuna, so we want to thank him for that, and also thank Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at CommitmentPod, where we'll be tweeting out the information about upcoming episodes. And don't forget, you can head on over to commitment.com to pick up a Commitment logo enamel pin.
I just got mine. It's beautiful.
Yeah, hand-delivered.
Uh-huh. As will yours be if you order one. Matt will drive anywhere.
No, it'll just be hand-delivered by a postal worker.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But we have, I've been shipping more and more out every few days. I go to the post office and drop some more. So thank you, everyone who has been ordering those. You can also email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any questions for us for that upcoming episode. And you can follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, Keep believing.
Keep pretending.